The film you are about to see, Raising Cotton, was donated to the Southern Media Archive in 1994 by Emma Knowlton Lytle. Archivists at the university quickly realized that this was not a typical home movie, but an extraordinary visual document of Delta plantation culture caught on film during the transition from mules to tractors. Shot in the early 1940s, this silent, color 8mm home movie shows everyday life and work on Perthshire Plantation in the Mississippi Delta. In an effort to collect more information about Perthshire, we showed Raising Cotton to the filmmaker and to former plantation workers and recorded their responses. The results of this work, Voices of Perthshire, contains 2 recordings of Raising Cotton. Emma Knowlton Lytle narrates the first version, and Every Jackson and Eddie McLeod narrate the second.
I've been asked how I happened to do this film. And the answer, of course, is because it was there. I had a camera, and much as I enjoyed recording the children, I wanted to do a film with some sequence and some story back of it. And of course, raising cotton was the business of the whole family. I began using movie cameras probably not too long after my daughter Eleanor was born. And I believe she was born in 1937. So, but Jack died in 1940, her father, and we came back here to Perthshire to live with my mother. And so I had had several years' experience using a movie camera before I made this film. I think I've always known that black is beautiful. The people who worked on the place fascinated me visually. And though I had not yet begun to paint, the camera gave me a tool for recording the dignity and persistence and the reverence that was shown at the baptizing ceremonies. And it was like, here was an ongoing process of cultivation of the soil that involved all the people. It involved me, it involved my brother, my cousin. It supported us, it supported all the people who worked for us. And not having the energy or the imagination to write, I liked the validity of the camera. It's very early in the morning on a day in spring. Planting time, breaking time. This is Spence. Spence is the man on the white horse, always. He's one of the bosses. They're setting up the rows, getting ready to prepare the land, or the process of preparing the land. The seeds come from Delta Pine and Land Company. My brother at that time was just going to using tractors, but he felt that the mule-drawn planters would do a better job of dropping the seeds because they didn't move as fast as the tractors did. I just saw him cross some of the roads. But of course, with even a planter pulled by mules has its mechanical adjustments that have to do. You'll notice that when the bell rings, it's always tolled. That's a personal style of the man we call a hostler, because it isn't necessary to toll the bell that says it's time to go to work or time to break for lunch. But he liked to do it that way. They asked me how I happened to think of doing this, making this movie. Was it a noble desire to record history? I think really I had always been connected with raising cotton, and I think this is Lulu's dad. I'm not sure which one is Lulu's father. But they are bringing things in for the noon hour. And of course, once you turn the mules loose, they go directly to the barn. Slightly different attitude when it's time to go back to work. Well, here goes the bell again. And you will see it's a question of catching the mules. They think an hour is not enough noontime respite. The man in the khakis with the cork hat is Ellis Davis, who was in charge of all of the actual plantation operation except the overthinking and the bookkeeping. This is a sharecropper talking with my brother and my cousin. This is his home and his family, the sharecropper's home and family, the sharecropper's pig. And I think he's telling them that some repairs need to be made on his house. He was breaking the land with just one mule to prepare for a vegetable garden. And this is sunset of a day in the spring. And then, to everybody's delight, a rain comes. And then my brother and my cousin are busy worrying about why the seed can't come up through the buckshot. Buckshot is a clay, and as you could see in those shots, the seed had a fantastic job to push through the surface of the buckshot. But we're getting back to work again, cultivation time. Davis used a car some of the time, but he rode the walking horses most of the time, and his supervision of the plantation. They are cultivating here with the mule-drawn cultivators. But at this stage, in the early 1940s, they were beginning to use tractors to cultivate. But I guess I thought the mules were more colorful than the tractors, because I seemed to have taken them more. Now this is something you see very little of now, the chopping of the cotton, thinning the plants, and here we have a large number of women, and the boss there is Josh Taylor. We just saw a close-up of him, and he's watching over. I understand that one day a woman chopped all day long in the group, and when she went back the next day, the grass was high again, and she said, "This stuff do beat the Lord Jesus." It took him 3 days to come back. The man on the brown horse is Monkey Brooks. He was called Monkey because he was so good at keeping the tractors in good running order. So as you see, some of the cultivation, even then, was done by tractors. On Saturday, it was payday, and everybody tended to go to the store sometime during the day. At the time, I was mystified by the woman who patted her handkerchief. Now I understand it. I think we all make unnecessary gestures as we grow older. This woman drinking the soda is the only person who showed any reluctance to be in the film. Most of the people paid no attention to me whatever. I could come and go and take the shots that seemed to me to be part of the picture without any comment or any attention, actually. At that time, we had a daily train through Perthshire, and a station master. Lots of visiting back and forth. As you can see, I think all those cars belong to the laborers. A very relaxed time, anyway. Here is Spence again, and he mounts on the right side of the white horse, which always amazed me. I did a great deal of riding and showing of horses, and he's the only person I've ever seen mount a horse on the right side. The rhythm of rain and cultivation and growth goes on. We do see this kind of chopping sometimes, getting the heavy grasses out of the field. I was grown before I knew that the cotton blossoms come out white and turn pink. Now we've got Mr. Bollweevil. If you look carefully, you can see him. Not much nourishment in the commercial appeal. One of the pilots of the crop dusting planes told me that he tried to take very good care of his goggles because he didn't want to mistake a tree for a bug on his glasses. I had forgotten that the film was in color. It must be August because some of the bolls at the bottom of the plants are opening. And it's lay-by time, so it's time for church and for baptizings of the converts. It was a time when there was very little activity on the plantation. The cotton wasn't open yet to pick, and the plants were too big to cultivate anymore. And of course, being so tall, they kind of killed the weeds and grass. My own fascination with these ceremonies had to do with what I sensed as the profound reverence of the ceremony. The activity among the watchers is a sympathetic excitement with the seriousness of the situation. I'm trying to think of what it's called. They are almost like a hysterical fit. It's a sympathetic response from the witnesses to the experience. It took a good bit of editing to get the sequence as it is. One day, though, I heard something that tickled me. I was late, and as I approached, I heard Tom Brunner saying, "Not in the name of Mr. Knowlton, not in the name of the sheriff, not in the name of President Nixon, but in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit." It was a time of transition from hand labor and mule power to the almost total mechanization of the process today. There used to be people singing in the fields, very beautiful. Nobody can sing on a tractor. I had a friend once who did, and he ran his voice. Everything today impersonalizes to a great extent. And like like Arcelia Brooks or Arcelia Allen, who really enjoyed picking cotton. She was exceedingly good at it, and she enjoyed the fellowship with the people working with her, because she'd literally pick 2 rows to stay with the people. There was something futile about the relationship between the people who lived and worked on the land and my brother who managed the financing and watched over the machines and so forth. When he had a heart attack, I remember one day I was walking in the road out here and a woman came clear across a ditch and up on the road to ask me how he was. And she said, we need him. We can't get along without him. What did that mean? I don't know, but I was touched by it. Sharecropping has been belabored, and I remember my father commenting that some people farm the people and not the crop. But if it was honestly administered, it was an opportunity for people to have shelter, food, clothing, doctors on credit in return for the labor on the land. And then there would be a settlement at the end of the year repaying these expenses and quite often having enough left over to run them till the beginning of the next year. So you, like all human endeavor, I can't think of it as all bad. It wasn't all good either. I think we have gone to North Carolina and making cloth. I just happened to be visiting one of Jack's nieces in North Carolina. She knew a great deal about the spinning and weaving industry. And I had my camera, so again, I took pictures, but it was more difficult for me because I didn't know enough about it to know exactly how to depict the sequences. I think there were several mills actually. These sequences were the spinning of the thread, and then later on we have the weaving of the cloth. He's wrapping and sending the thread to the mills where they weave. So there were several afternoons, I'm sure, involved in this particular series of photographs. Now in the weaving. I think. But of course that was part of my difficulty was that I didn't know what was going on. It's a wonder I got as good pictures as I did. Well, there was almost no artificial light. I didn't have any lights. So I'm amazed that I got so much pictures. This is weaving. I think it was a classical red and white check. I thought I had a shot of here it is, the actual going back and forth. Apparently, it went through a washing process and then was rolled onto the big rolls of cloth. And I suppose that's a drying process. I'm not sure. It's a good film.
Okay.
Because it was a completely honest film. I made no effort to depict anything prettier than it was.
My name is Everly Jackson. Everly Jackson. I was born and raised in Perthshire. I tell you, I lived at Perthshire from 1914 until 70.
You lived on Perthshire
On
from
Perthshire.
1914 until 1970.
Yeah,
So, what does that mean? Well, you were born there?
born there,
And did you get married there?
married there,
Raised your children there?
raised my children there.
What kind of work did you do on Perthshire?
I worked on the farm. I nursed for Myron Knowlton and for now Myron Knowlton Jr. on Perthshire. I was raised around with the Knowltons. I was raised with the Knowltons.
You were raised with the Knowltons?
When I was a girl, I was Myron Knowlton and I had a cousin called Sam Clay. They was together. And so Sam Clay was my nurse. Therefore, they would take me to the Knowlton's house. My father was a farmer. He was a renter. And they went to work, chop, pick cotton. And I would live there with the Knowlton house till evening time, go home. They'd take me there every morning until I got big enough to wake myself.
I was born in 1925, August the 5th, right there in Perthshire.
How old were you when you first started working there?
I'm 6 years old.
What work did they have you doing then?
Well, I was biggest help my mother, you know. Like, and if you put me out in the field, somebody be helping me along till I got big enough to make it on my own. I would just like to say, after looking at this film, let's bring back remembrance and thinking about how far God done brought us from where we come from. Because God had brought us a long ways from back in them times. That's that old bell. That bell woke me up a minute. It rang about 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
In the morning, have to wake you up.
And then?
Next hour, it rang, they want you to see you at that lot, catching them mules. And back then, you didn't have liquor light, you had to have a lantern.